This is Ryan Smith, and you are watching Secret Chord. Silversun Pickups are an American indie rock and alternative band that formed in the year 2000 in California. With 6 studio albums under their belt and a Grammy nomination for Best New Artist, this band is exciting and innovative. We became friends after being involved with the charity event Joey's Song in Madison, Wisconsin. We recently had an opportunity to catch up in an interview where I got to ask them about their formation, the early years, and their rise to the top of the indie rock world. I hope you enjoy this interview. Help the channel out by liking and subscribing to Secret Chord. Dig it.
NXS making their network television debut with us tonight, and their album is entitled Carnivus. Please welcome Silversun Pickups.
Welcome, Brian and Nikki. It's great to see you guys.
Long time no see, pal. I don't know how you feel about the Joey Song thing that we all did together in January, which to everybody is a big Madison benefit thing involving tons of people raising money for epilepsy. And ever since that crazy couple of days, like once in a while we'll run into people, like we ran into Sierra or Laura Jane Grace came and sang with us. And it's like, oh, it's real. It happened. One of my favorite memories is you and I wailing on Feel Like Making Love. Just one of those things that not in a million years of my life did I think that that would be something that would happen. And it was so fun.
It was a blast. I understand there's a pretty interesting story about you guys meeting.
We were both in different junior colleges in the 1990s, and they had a study abroad program to go to Cambridge, England. Basically, it was a relatively inexpensive way for a student like us to go live in Europe for a couple months. So we met on a plane going to England. And yes, Nikki's going to debate this, but she seemed quiet and kind of conservative because she's from Orange County. And then I saw her stealing alcohol bottles from the flight attendant. And I thought, okay, well, that makes sense.
Nikki, you're the one that stole the bottles?
Well, it's not stealing. It's
okay, here we go. Yes. Here we go.
I may or may not have been underage, so I took them from the cart, but they were free bottles. Because that was the time where you could have free drinks on a plane.
Your little hand kept reaching out into the cart when she was looking away. So it wasn't that they weren't available to you. They were thrilling to take them from her. So I knew she was a thrill seeker right away.
Did you have a similar taste in music when you met? Like, were you bonding on, we both love these bands? Or
yeah, kind of. She called me at my host mom's house and wanted me to go see Radiohead. And I said no. And she called me back and said, come on, I got an extra ticket. And I thought, well, that's a Creep band. But I'm a creep. I don't think I want to go. And then I eventually went, and it was a place called The Junction, which can fit about 250 people. And they were touring on a thing called the Iron Lung EP, which is the thing right before the Bends came out. And my face just melted off. And the places that my mind went to when I was living somewhere so far away, it put a lot of things in perspective, because before that, I definitely was just a little lost going through the motion, not quite sure what was going on. And you have these people that you're connected to in ways that are not just out of convenience of sort of being in the same school or things like that. Like, these are people that even though they're in the same place with you, you really are connecting. It fundamentally changed me forever.
After that, we both finished college. I was at UCLA and Brian was at USC, and then we became roommates. Well, I would always hear Brian playing the guitar. I always thought he was such a great guitarist. And we were both in other bands at the time, and I was like, we should be in a band together. Took a few years, and then we did.
So, Nikki, I know that you studied art and art history in college, and Brian, you were a film studies major. Did you guys find that what you learned and your education was applicable to your experience in the Silversun Pickups?
It must, it's hard to know what other people do. Your process is just your process, I guess, and it just sort of comes out of you naturally, right? We never know what's normal or not. Like, we don't know how the bands do things or how they react with each other. We only know how we do them. So they might be very weird, but it sort of makes sense to us. And I would say with Nikki, yeah, a lot of the art involving in our band always filters through her. Sometimes we'll say a certain mood while we're writing a record. She'll print out lots of different photos and different artists she's loved. I mean, it's a very expensive. If you actually got those prints, it would be like millions of dollars. But she just Xeroxes them and puts them around, and we kind of look at them and whether they are in the ending point of it all. It's sort of irrelevant. They're just there to feed off of while we're doing it.
What was the creative process like when you guys just started the band? In those early years, how did you go about writing songs?
I usually have things swimming around my head, and I'll do voice memos or just things to keep a little bit of track of them before I let the band in on it. It has to have some sort of shape, like a fun, raw version of a sort of song that has changes. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to stay, and it could stay, but it's just, I don't really feel ready yet when it's just one musical melody. It has to have a couple. Then when I bring it to the band, everybody kind of chisels at it and then shapes the thing. And that is, in general, that's how it comes. It usually comes from my crazy brain, and then, you know.
Has it changed at all, though, over the years, like the order you do it? Like, especially working with Butch Vig, I know he does things really differently.
The one thing Butch does, which is really fascinating, and I think it's been really good for Christopher, who's our drummer, is he likes to sort of save the drums for the end, which is not how it's ever been. He wants them to live with the song while it's being built for as long as you can. And then when you're playing to it, you're playing to more of a complete picture, and you really paid attention and chiseled at it, and it just makes it more of a musical expression than just laying down the fundamentals for us to pop on top. I think for Christopher, it was something he really felt more of a part of instead of like showing up and then not knowing what we're doing for 6 months.
You're going to be a Carnivus tour for the anniversary. Are you going to play the album cover to cover?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were coy about it, but I'll just tell you, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we are. Because I'd really like to get a chance to play them well. You do pick up some ability after all this time, and that record has the most history with people just because of how old it is, and it's one of the first ones. So it's going to be very fun to get people that have a chance to live within it live, and also, to be honest, have us present it live better than we could have back then. You know, back then we were a little bit more chaos, which has something to it.
Everyone can focus clearly. With sunshine.
Yeah.
You know, but it's going to be fun to be able to take our experience as a live band and bring it to that record. It'll be fun to go into those songs and make those sounds really happen. Because I remember being really frustrated back then because not knowing how to figure out how to get things to feel like the record, you know. And I think we've gotten a lot better at that, and that's going to be exciting. Or we won't do it.
Yeah.
Do you guys find when you're making an album that you create, you record, and then you have to rehearse over and over to be able to replicate what you just did in the studio? Or do you feel like by the time you hit the studio, you're pretty much doing what you're going to do on stage?
Again, back in the day, it was a little hard because it was hard to figure out how to make our records sound like when we were playing live, and how to make our live show feel like the album, and they just were not the same. We did the same thing, and it just didn't correlate, at least for us. And so it needed to have different energy. It needed to be a little raw, a little bit more exciting, but still sound, you know, like I said, have the basic sort of soundscapes of the record, but just a little more heightened. If it's a little more heightened, it really does, in my opinion, feel more like the energy you're getting from the album than just playing it. So we're getting really decent at understanding where we're even going to start from. we definitely dread going into those first practices every time. Like, oh God, I hate this. It's going to suck so bad. And then it's never as bad as we always think it's going to be.
And then we mix in some songs we know and makes us feel better.
Yeah. And then you throw in a couple of the old ones and then you're just like, okay, good. From that point, that first sort of go, knowing what we're going to omit, what's going to be in Joe world, what I'm going to concentrate on, then it's just sort of about tweaking it and getting comfortable in the muscle memory. And, we can sit in the rehearsal space all day long, but it's not going to be the same as playing a show. Well, I like to have a lot of activity. I know there are a lot of bands that like to shut everything down and keep everything away. Even when we record records, I like people walking in and out, not being so secluded and not being, like a sort of bubble, because I really honestly feel like if there's just some strangers around, you're going to play how you're going to play for real. You're holding your stick differently. You're playing it differently. So I almost prefer to rehearse when there's just like people glaring at us. I don't know if the rest of the band feels that way. But.
Did either of you have any formal training in music when you started? Did you learn like how to read music or music theory? Was that something that ever came into play?
When I was younger, I took piano lessons for 10 years, and then I took guitar lessons for a couple years. My first serious attempt at bass playing was just with Silversun. And, I think that we enjoy going for something. Like, we're not going to practice for years before. We're just going to be like, oh, okay, let's just try this. Let's just get a show and start playing in front of people. For the first 2 years, we would just take the worst slots so we could get experience, and for us to like develop whatever sound it was we were going for. We weren't thinking like, oh, let's make t-shirts, let's make buttons. I think our first t-shirt was year 4.
I've always responded to music emotionally, and that's how I've always played my guitar, sort of more intuitively, I guess. And a piece of me always sort of thought theory and more technical knowledge would hinder that. When you go to like a place in the studio musicians and they're just like also good, it's boring. Like, look how much school it took to bore you. But as I've gotten older, I realized just learning those things, it would just enhance it. And so I try to do a lot more of that as much as I can. It's like a good thing. I remember Jeff Tweedy talking about when he worked with Jim O'Rourke. Jim O'Rourke produced a bunch of like those, I think some of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, maybe Ghost is Born. Jeff's like, I need it to sound sad like this. And then Jim O'Rourke technically told him how. And he thought, wow, I didn't know there was a technical way to get to what I wanted, but I'm so glad I know that. And I feel like that's something that I'm more interested in now. How about you, Ryan?
For me, I find it helpful just to get what I'm hearing in my head out quicker. Not speed. It's just, it took a long time for me to feel like there's a connection between making that information useful in a creative way, where it's still like from the same.
Well said.
I think where it gets dangerous is when it wasn't quite useful. Then I would think about rules and things.
That's what I don't want.
But you never want to do that. Exactly. So you have to just keep the literal part of what you're doing, that visceral thing that you're doing has to stay the same.
I think that thing that was just innate in you, that comes out of you, I thought it was more fragile than it actually is. Because at the end of the day, that is honestly the fundamental, and that is something you actually can't teach someone. Like you were talking about with rules and stuff. Yeah, see, you're smiling because you know what I'm talking about. There's people who are technically amazing at something, and I'll try and tell them how one of our songs go, and they just can't wrap their mind around it because it lives in between the rules. There's somebody that we've been touring with, and she's a great guitar player, and we've been trying to coerce her up to. She's in one of the bands that plays with us, and we've been trying to coerce her up to come up and do Lazy Eye at the end, and it's just a lot of noise. She's so clued into things that she just goes, I keep going, here, it's easy, it's this, it's that, it's this. And she goes, no, it's not that. She goes, it's so about vibe. And she's like, I just need to get that vibe. And she's right. Like the transition from your imagination into reality can be frustrating until you can put that thing in your head and it just like you can dream the song. The quicker you can access it, a little bit better to present it to everybody. But when you're like, hold on, 20 minutes, I'm like, gling, gling, wait, no, it goes, and everyone's just like wandering off in their minds. And when we were in Iceland, my wife bought this choral Bjork book. When I come home, sometimes it's so fun to hear these little notes pop around, and then after a while, I can start hearing this Bjork song pop through. You know, like it's just the haze starts to clear, and I'm like, oh, you're playing that song, you know? It's really, really fun. And it's satisfying to see her figure it out and have it start taking shape. Because at first it just sounds so bizarre and so like bing, blang, blang. And then all these notes connect and that connects. And then the rhythm of it changes and you go, oh, wow. God, and I find that to be soothing.
When we were doing Joey's song, which has come up a few times here, everybody had played a lot of songs. I feel like Brian and Nikki, you played the most.
Yeah.
Before that, you know, I hadn't done too many covers, so it's just nice to see what other bass players do with their songs. You know, it's nice to see what you guys picked out for your songs, and just interesting how we all came together in the beginning to do the acoustic songs and then just like going for all of them. Brian's so much faster at learning everything than I am, and I get way more nervous. So it was a nice challenge for me personally.
When you're learning that many songs, do you think of notes at all or chords, or is it like a visual thing, or do you kind of go by, I feel this part coming next? Like, how do you memorize it?
I just try to get to know the song really well so that I hear the bass in my head, and then my hands will start learning what to do. I would say the hardest one was Joe Jackson, I'm the Man. Admire the bass work in that song. It's so spontaneous and like there's so much angst in it, and it's not perfect, but perfect in the imperfections. Like sometimes you don't want everything to be absolutely right, so it becomes more memorable.
There's a couple of songs I had to really pay attention to, right? That were like hero songs in my mind. And one was like Soul Asylum, Misery is one of them. Those were like the songs I had to really pay attention to. And then there was others. It was like a big list where I just had them on a playlist. I just needed to know them, but I just had to absorb them, and I could play them, but I could also, I just knew where I was going. And if I got a little lost, I can kind of go there. But other ones were like the hero song. And it just kind of became a challenge. The Talking Heads cover. The lyrics on that was about a good 3 weeks of just constantly repeating them over and over again, because he doesn't have a repeating line. And those words are so important, and we were so naked up there in acoustic, and there's no way I was going to attempt doing a Talking Heads song and blow it in any fashion. It was exciting to be able to accomplish that, and my brain, it's like a muscle, right? I just kept being able to do that. And so I've still been trying to learn songs that I like. I've still been trying to play with people. I've still been trying to keep that muscle strong. And I think I was shy or timid, or I don't know, all these sort of things that can kind of be an unfortunate product of being young, just like the headiness and the critique and the things and this and that, and shedding all of that and still feeling like myself has just been such a fulfilling thing. Like Joey's song and all that, and playing with you guys, and even asking Soul Asylum to come up and do a song. And Laura, these are newer concepts for me, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm having such a love affair with something that I've been playing guitar since I was 7, and I'm playing it now for fun more than I have in a long, long time. So when we were playing the song "I'm the Man" from Joe Jackson, right? The drummer who was playing that with us, Cheap Trick. I can't remember his name now.
Dax
Yeah,
Nielsen.
Dax came up there and he's playing, and when we rehearsed it, he played it fast.
Almost made them respectable.
And I just looked over at Nikki and I was like, whoa, she's going to do it. She's going to go for it. And then in my head, I was like, all right, Nikki, you totally did it and you were shredding. In my mind, the spotlight went on you and there were flames and things because you started to do that ending riff thing that we're all catching on and waiting to just unleash. And it was so exciting. Because you were like, totally did it. I was like, she's not going to miss any notes. She's going to go for it. Getting to play with different people like drums and things like that, you don't flirt with all that stuff that often. So when you do those things, it's just really fascinating to get what you do into the pocket of someone else's. That happened a lot that night.
I just really enjoyed that time together with other musicians coming in. I feel like almost in the way when we went on that exchange program, like I felt transformed after. I'm so glad we were a part of it.
Totally shifting gears here. When I first was aware of you guys, and I really, really dug all your records, but when the first one came out, I was in LA and I was in the Silver Lake Lounge and I stepped out and then saw Silversun Pickup across.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So that has to be where your name came from.
It's Silversun Liquor. Brian and I, we lived together for, I think it was almost 7 years in a house just above that liquor store. That just is a place we always went. And we would always go to shows at Spaceland. But after one of the shows, Brian's like, I have this idea for a name, Silversun Pickups. And then I was like, awesome. And then that was it. It was definitely, we were ingrained in that town. And just every night we were going to see shows. And it was such a supportive experience with all of our friends' bands. And we were just constantly either playing or seeing bands and just like growing our musical imaginations at that point. It took us 4 years. And then we started touring outside of LA. But actually, our first show was at CMJ in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was determined to get us a show. I enjoyed going down to CMJ. And then I was like, we got to get this show. So I recorded our rehearsal one day and then I just sent it in with some Polaroids of us because we didn't have any pictures.
How has the Silver Lake scene changed? Do you guys still feel a part of it now?
People are aware of us. It's just that the neighborhood is not that kind of neighborhood. You know, it's a Beverly Hills, Richie Poo, fancy pants neighborhood. If we find ourselves in places in Los Angeles where there are bands that have similar kind of left of center attitudes, they're aware of us. But it's not like what it was, you know, where we're just like every week there's some band that we're around or we all know. I mean, it's just a special time. But cities get more expensive.
But yeah, I mean, one of the places where we probably played the most is no longer there. So it's like I drove by there the other day and I was just bummed all over again. I was like, this is different.
If you have the luxury of being able to get old and time goes by, I mean, that's just going to happen, you know. I think I was less sad when seeing it closed than I was when I went in there before it closed. It was like, oh, this is not what it was. You know what I mean? Everything's a time and place. And we were just very, very extremely lucky that our time and place was a moment when there's an area of this big city that we live in that's just conducive for bands like us. I feel so happy when bands that we play with tell us that they really enjoy playing for our audiences. They just want to see something honest and different and new. And that's what it felt like back then, just constantly bands everywhere. It's so opposite of like what the culture in Los Angeles was growing up. It's just like pay to play, all this sort of nonsense. No, this was like a really organic neighborhood DIY experience. And that's where we were birthed in. And it couldn't be easier for a band like us to have the most fertile soil to be able to try and grow.
Yeah, it's really cool to have a scene like that that fosters that kind of creativity. Are there any bands from there that you still feel connected to now that are still creating music?
Yeah, Jenny Lewis is still doing We did a lot of Rilo Kiley stuff back in the day.
And it's bad news, baby, I'm bad news. I'm just bad news, bad news, bad news.
Cold War kids.
Hang me up to dry. I party like the whites of your eyes.
They're a band that we came up together, but not together. We've been around each other for 20 years, and we root for each other. I'll always get excited when I see that. Laura Jane is a good example.
This night is gonna end. We were damn well ready for it to be over. Worked all week long. Now the music is playing on our time.
It just makes me so happy to be even included in people like that.
And we played with her just a month or so ago.
Yeah. Almost got Soul Asylum up there.
Oh,
Next
yeah. We
time.
wanted you guys.
Almost. Yeah, that was the cruise week, I think. That was a bummer. I was really looking forward to seeing you guys play. So I was
That place. Every time we play there, First Ave, it's like, I just love it. We had the good mid-tour 2-day break in Minneapolis. So my wife and my 8-year-old son came to visit because I always wanted her to experience Minneapolis, because it's not a city you can tell people about. It's a city you have to just go be in it. And when you're in it, slowly after all these days walking around and meeting people and doing stuff, and you just seeing it kind of start to wash over her, like, oh yeah. There's something happening here. I'm like, yeah, there sure is.
You guys were nominated for a Grammy in 2010. How did you find that affected your career, if it did at all?
At the moment, you get some attention from people who pay attention to the Grammys. It's not like the world. I can't think that it does something specific for you. There's lots of people that we work with that do love to say Grammy nominated. Band. Like, they can't take that nomination away from us. They can try. If that ever happened again, which I can't imagine in any way that it would, but if it did, I would learn from all the bands that were there to not watch the whole show. We sat down and didn't leave. I can see everybody has flasks because it was a dry, place, so everybody's like sneaking off. It's like a 4.5-hour TV set, and it's pretty boring.
I always like to watch the Grammys, so I would watch the whole thing. It was a nice honor. I wouldn't say it changed our lives.
That's for sure. But just because that's true, I try not to be snarky about it. Like, it means something to someone, and the fact that we were nominated is kind of touching. It's a thing that grandparents and parents love.
Yeah,
I mean, we looked so cool. My father-in-law and everybody were like, yeah.
Now, you guys have walked down the red carpet many times. What does that feel like? And do you find it messes with your indie rock sensibilities?
Funny, when we get thrown on red carpets, it's like we are way low. Like, most of the people there are kind of like, take a little click picture, just be nice or something. But there's always like one person that's flipping out. Like, what? At the Spirit Awards, when we actually showed up and started, we were the house band. The one person that freaked out was, remember Nikki? It was Joaquin Phoenix. He did a video for us called Little Lover.
Little lover so polite. Turn it off a low light. Tell me that the bones collide.
So we were around him for a little while at that time, and then we hadn't seen him for a long time. And he walked into the Spirit Awards and saw our band up there, and he was like, "What the hell is happening?" He's like, he came up and said, "You need anything?" He was really worried about us.
So sweet.
Yeah, he was really sweet.
Have you guys had an opportunity to meet any of your musical heroes? And if so, what was that experience like for you? Were you nervous, comfortable? Was it surreal? For example, I've got a friend who met Ringo Starr, and she couldn't even speak.
We met Ringo too. We did a thing for Ringo. He asked us to play his birthday party thing, and so we did. Nikki and I. It was weird.
Gotta pay your dues if you wanna sing the blues, and you know it don't come easy. You don't have to shout or leap and bound. You can even play them easy.
Weird. And then it was hard to be nervous around Ringo because Ringo was just so Ringo. He was like, "Hey, how you doing?" It was so strange that I immediately kind of was like finding my words for a second, and then he started singing the words at me, like, "Oh, come on, you got this." And I was like, "What is happening?" I don't ever seek trying to meet people because I'm just too shy about that. But if we get in a situation where you are starting to talk to someone, it's usually pretty diffused at that point. People are cool. It's very rare that we come across people that aren't so awesome. And in general, they're not people that I'm not interested in anyway.
Meeting Jody Stevens is pretty.
Oh, man.
Thing.
How cool is Jody? And Neil Young, that's always interesting. Going back to Radiohead, ever since that show, they're one of my favorite bands, and I've always loved them. Ed O'Brien, he's the other guitar player in Radiohead. He has a signature model guitar that Butch and Billy, his engineer, turned me on to because it has a harmonizer inside of it. Basically, it's like a EBO. It's a Strat that has a switch where you can have the sustain and things like that. I just really love what I'm able to do with it. And I decided to write him a letter to tell him how much I like this guitar. And he wrote me back the sweetest letter ever. That if this was like one of those things like back in the 70s or 80s where somebody you idolized writes you a letter and you could frame it, except mine's just an email that I just have to have it flagged. But I was just so blown away that I got a letter from Ed O'Brien. It's impossible to think that anything you're doing is equal to anything that they're doing. So it's so separate. And so when those collide, it sometimes it takes me aback a little bit, like, whoa. And sometimes it's not surprising to the people around me, but it's always surprising to me that anybody like that would know anything about us.
Who were some of the first bands and artists that inspired you to start making your own music and embark on this crazy journey?
The first band that I loved was Duran Duran, by far.
In touch with the ground, I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. Smell like a sound, I'm lost in a crowd, and I'm hungry like the wolf.
I pretend I'm in the band. I had my doll set up and my neighbor would come over and we'd all pretend I was John Taylor and would sing those songs. And then the second band was the Cars.
I guess you're just what I needed. I needed someone to feed.
I loved their identity. Soundtracks were always really important to me, and like soundscapes and things like that. And I find myself listening to mostly things like that, weird scores and stuff, until later. Learning how to play guitar and stuff at a time when everything was Poison and Warrant and stuff was hard because it seemed like there was no way to access that. You know, and then my sister's older, so the people that she knew were all in those bands. So I'd see these like LA bands and just like, okay, that's like, I guess that's what bands are, you know? They're like that. And you have to do a lot of work on your presentation and things. As time goes on, though, your friends will slip you like a mixtape that has PJ Harvey on it.
Down by the water, I took her hand.
And the Pixies. And then at that time, those things then not only become big to you, but then they start to become big to the culture and Nirvana. Like the pedestal's been knocked out from under the feet, and all those sort of things that seem absolutely insane and comic booky and goofy and strange are gone. And now this like rawness coming out, and to be young and playing guitar and being interested in that at that time when the culture seemed to have caught up with it was like very exciting. And then you just learn so much about music from them, because those bands, like, you know, listen to, I remember hearing Smashing Pumpkins and being amazed at the guitar sounds, and then like finding out about My Bloody Valentine. For me, all the timing with what was around, what was underground and what was not underground, and even later on with like Modest Mouse and Indie Rock and Built to Spill and all these bands that we were starting to be older, where we were actually a band and Elliott Smith and Sparkle Horse, and being actually around playing music when bands like that were around, it just feels like it all lined up in a way where it was the easiest for somebody like me to get confident in doing your own band.
Now, obviously, the music business has changed drastically over the last 20 years, and you guys started out very organically in the Silver Lake music scene. Now, what would you tell a young band starting out today? What advice would you give them? And what would you do differently if you could go back in time, if you would even do it at all?
I would say that all you can control is what the music is. All you have in your power is to play what it is that you want to play, and do not play anything else that you're not interested in. Play whatever it is that you feel compelled to play. Don't listen to advice. Everyone's going to have advice all day long. If you're doing something that's making people feel that's not right, then you're probably on the right track to something, because I fundamentally think that you can't really do anything interesting without a lot of people not liking you. If luck shows up and you're prepared when it does, you'll find your people, as long as it's honest and it's something you love to do. I mean, what's the point of playing music that's just not in your heart just to get somewhere? That's what I was telling Hello Mary, the band that's playing with us. Like, they seem to be really enjoying the process. And I tell them, it's like, it doesn't change. It is exactly like this. It's just like different levels of things. But other than that, if you didn't enjoy it then, you will not enjoy it now. And you got to find your ways to be able to do it and feel like the music is as close to what you're trying to get out as possible. And that is all the control that you have. And if you didn't have that, at least for me, then I don't know what the point of this is, you know?
I have a few questions from people on the internet. Andrew Fugger is wondering what your typical process for writing songs is. Like, do you start with music or lyrics first?
I like to have parameters. So I like melodies and I like vowel sounds and things like that. And at least for me, the words are less important than the sound of it, because if I'm singing a word and I just think it's bad, that's not necessary for me to make sure you hear this word. So I just got to find other ways to say what I'm saying and have it sing better. I have an easy time starting things, but sometimes completing things is intense.
This question came in from Frank Soros. What was the inspiration for the music video for the track Substitution?
That was the Malloy brothers. Yeah. And we were intrigued by it for sure, but we're just like, is this exploitative in some fashion?
I know you've heard it before, but then it wasn't enough. You don't want to be held back from substitution.
But it didn't feel that way in the room. It felt really weird and heightened and strange. They just captured what we really did. So we played and then stopped, and then they had to get a chair and we played and stopped.
With all our videos, we like to hand it over to the directors. We want them to thrive with our song and their vision.
People have ideas. If we can be the catalyst to get it done, a new piece of art shows up that would not have happened on our own control.
You know, Mark Shea from Performance Anxiety, the podcast, he asked if there's any new music that you're excited about, and he said you're allowed to mention Hello Mary.
Hello Mary is a band that we're on tour with now. They're from New York, and they kind of rock my world. And they've introduced us to another band in Los Angeles called Rocket that I absolutely love. There's another band from Arizona called Glixen that's pretty amazing. My favorite artist that just released records right now is Waxahachie. Just floored by how good this record Tiger's Blood is. It's like hearing a bunch of songs that it's so wild that they've never existed before. It seems so obvious. They're just like perfect songs. And through that, I remember getting turned on to MJ Lenderman, who plays with her on those records. And he has a band called Wednesday that's also really cool. Rosie Tucker is somebody that I've been loving for a while, a Los Angeles artist. And they just released a record that is kind of mind-boggling how good it is. And they recorded it themselves. Again, that muscle of creativity. You start working on something, it's easier to keep working and keep working. It's sort of happening right now with being in tune with newer music. The floodgates have opened up a little bit, and I'm really being hit with so much new music that makes me feel so proud. They're so much more assured of themselves, and they're just almost so much better than we ever were or even are. And I find it intoxicating and exciting. when Hello Mary is opening for us, it's like I'm vampirically sucking energy from them. They don't even know it. I have an extra boost in my step when we start our show. They crush it.
This is from Andy McNamara. I know him. Soul Asylum song that you wish you wrote. Which would it be? And you can say none. That's totally fine.
Misery is one that I was less aware of, but somehow I think through playing it and realizing I was going to be in it, I got really attached to that one. When I hear it now, it's not even the same song. And it has like 5 choruses. It's just constantly getting hooked. It's like, well, not that one. Here's another one.
The
It's like,
structure
whoa,
was really
whoa.
interesting and non-traditional, and I think that's why we attached to it, because that's what we love in music too.
You never want to have songs that show off these sort of things, but if you learn them, you realize how actually tricky this little maze is to make it just so it'll still sound organic and natural. And I think that is a real strength.
I have just one more question for you guys. I really appreciate your time. If you could get in a time machine and go to the plane that you guys got on together and give yourself a piece of advice each separately, what would that be?
Don't steal the alcohol.
Well, then that would fundamentally change how I
We
feel
would have
about
met
it.
anyway.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been like as aggressive. I think my advice to my younger self would always be: don't worry as much. Don't stress as much as you seem to stress. And pay less attention to your past screw ups and your future scares. And really try and live in the present, because the present, once you start doing that, everything comes into shape a lot better. If you get on that plane, I'm like, do not be so scared. This is going to be something grand.
I've been waiting for this moment all my life, but it's not quite right. And it's real, it's impossible that whose blind word so clear but so unheard. I've been waiting for the silence all night long. It's just a matter of time to appear sad with the same old decent lazy eye fixed to rest on you. Ain't free but so untrue. Everyone's so entirely rearranged. Everyone can focus clearly. Sunshine. So entirely rearranged. Everyone can focus clearly. Sunshine. Thank you so much, everybody. What a pleasure. Really, really nice.